Hi, Lisa here from Cool Kids Hub. Today I want to talk about what does a sleep schedule look like for a 9-month-old? What are some of the potential problems you might find with your little one's sleep at this age? And at this age, you also might want to consider if your little one is not sleeping through the night, actually night weaning them. So how do you go about doing that? So let's start with, now your little one is 9 months. You'll find they're a lot more enjoying that awake time a lot more. And they can obviously handle more awake time. So they're going to be a lot more active than what they've probably you used to them being. In saying that, their sleep is not too much different from what your little one's was at the 8-month mark. And they still do need between 12 and 16 hours of sleep. Now, at this age, most babies will still be and should still be sleeping 2 naps. So their daytime sleep will be about 3 to 4 hours. And then obviously a good solid 10 to 12 hours at night. Some babies do take one very long 3-hour nap, which is fine. But if you're finding your little one is sleeping less than 3 hours in the day, then I would recommend you still putting them down for a second nap, even if it's just a short cat nap, because otherwise they will become overtired and then obviously more challenging to get to sleep. Now, what are some of the sleep tips? At this age, like I said, your little one's very active. So it can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge to get them to want to go to sleep because they're enjoying that awake time, that interaction being with you. So there are a few things that you can do. First of all, be consistent with your bedtime routine. I say this in every probably video, but it is so important to have that bedtime routine because that does send sleep signals to your little one. Now, obviously, if it's for actual bedtime, that routine will be longer, but you can do a condensed version of that for naps. I mean, that might just be as simple as, a feed and a lullaby or a feed in a book, but you're kind of sending those sleep signals to your little one that now is the time for sleep. So having that consistent routine is really important. The second tip is to start introducing a cup. Now, you may be thinking, well, what's a cup got to do with sleep? The reality is, whether you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, it's good to try and introduce a cup before 12 months of age so they're completely weaned off of a bottle by 12 months. And the reason being is that at this age, they can start to really develop more and more of a dependency on that breastfeeding or bottle feeding to go to sleep. And then it becomes even more challenging once you want to wean them off a bottle because they need that bottle to go to sleep. So the best way to start doing that is starting to introduce a cup for some of the feeds, a little sippy cup, and putting the milk in that. Or if you're breastfeeding, you can obviously still put your breast milk in that instead of in the bottle. Every now and then. This just helps to wean them from that association of breastfeeding or bottle feeding and going to sleep if your little one does still rely on that to help them go to sleep. Then the next thing is to make sure, the last tip is make sure they get enough overall sleep. So at this age, your little one can definitely go through the night without requiring a feed. Now, there are babies that do still wake up for a night feed, but developmentally it is possible for them to go without a feed. And then they obviously need those sort of 3 to 4 hours of daytime sleep, so you want to make sure they're getting enough overall sleep. If your little one is waking up a lot in the night and not getting a good 10 to 12 hours, they are probably going to require more daytime sleep. So just to make sure that they're getting enough overall sleep within that 24-hour period. Now, what does a sleep schedule look like for a 9-month-old? I will put a link in the description of this video to a downloadable sleep schedule. And that sleep schedule, like all sleep schedules, is a guide because every baby is different. But it gives you some idea of what a schedule should look like for your 9-month-old. And it is based on your little one taking 2 naps. Obviously, at this time, they will be on solid. So having sort of those 3 meals a day with their bottles in between, normally or breastfeeding, normally about 4 bottles or breastfeeds, and they might even be having some little snacks in between, but definitely those 3 meals a day at the 9-month mark. So the schedule is based on those 2 naps, 3 meals, and the bottle feeds and breastfeeds in between that. Now, another question people often ask is, can I sleep train a 9-month-old? Now, sleep training, first of all, it is a very personal decision whether or not you're going to sleep train your little one. And also sometimes when parents hear the word sleep training, it kind of conjures up all these images of their little one crying. And for me, it's not about sleep training. It's about developing those healthy sleep habits in your little one. Now, if your 9-month-old is still waking in the night for feeding, it is more likely that they are waking out of habit more than out of hunger. Because at this age, like I said, they can actually go through the night without requiring a feed. So it might just be that it's now a habit for your little one to keep waking up, feeding, to go back to sleep, and they're not actually hungry at all. So the important thing is, if you're now deciding, look, I want to get a full night's sleep, and therefore you want to look at some kind of sleep training, there are 5 different methods of sleep training. And I will put a link in the description of this video to a video that I did on the 5 different sleep training methods. Now, they go from very gentle, there's almost no crying, to obviously cry it out. Just bear in mind, because your little one now is 9 months, some of those very, very gentle methods may no longer be appropriate, because your little one will become is much more insistent on their routine than what they were if they were a few months younger. So at this age, you might also want to consider night weaning, like I said, if your little one is waking in the night for feeding. Because at this age, if they're waking, they're more than likely waking out of habit than hunger. Because like I said, developmentally, they can actually go through the night without requiring that feed. So if you are considering night weaning, there's 2 options. Now, if your little one is still waking multiple times, then I would suggest option 1. And with this option, what you're going to do is at each feed, whether you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, you're actually going to feed them less at each feed. So let's say you're breastfeeding and you're currently giving them 7 minutes on each breast. You might reduce that to 5 minutes. Wait a few nights, then reduce it down to 3 minutes, until eventually you're not feeding them at that feed. With the bottles, you'll just reduce the amount of ounces. Now, this is especially good, like I said, if your little one's waking multiple times in the night, because it's going to be a lot harder to just stop completely feeding them, because you now need to transition them from being dependent on that feed for their sleep. The second option, and this is an option if your baby is only waking once, say in the night, what I would suggest doing is, when they wake in the night, don't feed them at all, and actually try other methods to soothe them. So that might be just some gentle shushing or patting, and just putting them back to bed. And yes, they might cry a little bit. I mean, don't leave them to cry for, I'm not suggesting to cry for hours on end. They might whinge a little bit. Just offer them comfort, reiterate that it's sleeping time, and leave them. They will, after a couple of nights, they'll realize, okay, well, I'm not getting fed when I wake, and you'll probably find they just automatically drop that last feed and start sleeping through the night. Now, we'll put a link in the description of this video to a video that I did do on night weaning, which you can check out, which has more details around how to successfully night wean your little one. Now, at this age, what are some of the sleep problems that you may encounter? Well, the first big one is pulling themselves up and standing up within their cots. Often this age is the age where they are now pulling themselves up. Some may even be starting to edge along walking. So you might find that they want to all of a sudden start practicing this newfound skill when it's time for sleep. Now, do resist the urge to keep going in and lying them back down, because this can start to become a game for them. Rather give them a few minutes to see if they figure it out. If you have to go in and lie them down, try and show them how to do it, as opposed to just putting them down yourself. And obviously, you don't want to be interacting with them a lot, because like I said, it just starts to become a game, and then they stand up, wait for you to come, put them down, and then the game continues. What you can also do is make sure you're letting your little one practice that skill in the day while they're away. Letting them pull themselves up, showing them how to sit back down and lie back down. This way, when they do pull themselves up, you can just leave them, and they'll eventually just sit back down and lie back down and go to sleep. The other problem at this age can still be teething, can be causing your little one to wake up. If you do suspect that it's teething that's causing or disrupting their sleep, you can obviously try teething rings. But if you still think your little one is sleep is being disturbed because they're in pain, then talk to your doctor about some other kind of pain relief for them, just to help them through that stage. I mean, some babies sail through teething and you barely know they're teething, and others unfortunately do have a little bit of pain whilst they're teething. And then the other problem that some parents experience, or many parents experience, is early morning wakings. Now, at this age, it is not unusual to wake around the 5 a.m. mark. You can obviously try things like making sure the room is really dark, but it's almost like kind of natural for babies to start stirring around that 5 a.m. mark. What you can do if you don't want to start your day at 5 a.m., you can try feeding them at 5 a.m. and that might give you a couple more hours. But unfortunately, a lot of babies do wake up sometime between that 5 and 6 a.m. and that is perfectly normal, and it is something that you might find you experience quite a bit at this age. Now, the other thing parents often ask is there a 9-month sleep regression? Now, if you've been watching any of my other videos, you would know that I will say, no, there isn't, because the only true sleep regression actually happens at the 4-month mark. And why do I say that? Well, at the 4-month mark, that is when your baby's sleep physically changed from being that of a baby to mimicking more that of an adult. And that's around the amount of sleep cycles and sleep stages as your baby transition. It's a physical change that happened within your baby's body. And at that 4-month mark, there is a lot of disturbance to sleep because of this change. You might find more frequent night wake, or you would have found more frequent night wakings, etc. For the whole of baby's first year, you will find disturbances on and off throughout that first year, especially due to developmental changes. But these are more things like because they're standing up and they want to pull, can't sit down, or the teething is disturbing them, or they've just learned to roll over but they can't roll back. These things disturb their sleep, but they're not actually sleep regressions. The only true sleep regression happens at the 4-month mark. All these other things are disturbances to sleep. The outcome's the same. Yes, your baby's waking up, but they're not actual regressions. So what you need to do is just continue to be, consistent with your routines, consistent with your sleep, and like every other disturbance that happens in that first year, eventually that will pass. Give your little one as much opportunity to practice these skills that could be disturbing them. And if it's something like teething, like I said, you could try the teething wings or speak to your doctor about other pain medication to help relieve their teething symptoms. And that is it for a 9-month sleep schedule. So I will put all the links to anything that I've referred to in this video in the description below. Till next time, bye.